The Deep Space Monitoring Station Orbital Nexus 7 hummed with its usual electronic symphony, until it didn't. Senior Communications Analyst, Krexitar, had been staring at the same readout screen for 3 rotations, sipping his morning stimulant blend, when the anomaly detector started shrieking like a wounded space whale. "What in the 7 moons of Arcturus is that noise?" barked Station Commander Valone, her tentacles twitching with irritation as she stormed into the communications bay. Krikstar's 4 eyes darted between multiple displays, his scaled fingers dancing across holographic controls with practiced precision.
"Yeah.
Commander, we've intercepted a transmission, but there's something very, very wrong with it." "Define wrong, Analyst," Felon said, her voice carrying that special tone reserved for subordinates who spoke in riddles. "The signal's origin timestamp, ma'am. According to our most advanced dating algorithms, this transmission is 80,000 years old." Krikstar's voice cracked on the last word like a molting adolescent. The commander's tentacles stopped mid-twitch. "Run that by me again, slowly." 80,000 years old. Each word dropped like a neutron bomb in the silent bay. That's older than the Galactic Council itself. Older than recorded civilization. Hell, that's older than my grandmother's cooking recipes. And trust me, those are ancient. Chief Science Officer Brintel materialized at the workstation, her probability calculating brain already running overtime. "Commander, with respect, that's impossible. No known species has maintained technological civilization for more than 12,000 years. The signal would have degraded beyond recognition after such a time span." "Tell that to the quantum resonance patterns," Krikstar muttered, pulling up a 3-dimensional holographic display. "Look at this encoding structure. It's not just intact, it's pristine, like someone just transmitted it yesterday." Velon studied the swirling data patterns with growing unease. Could it be some kind of echo, a reflection from an ancient communications relay? "Negative," Brintel replied, her analytical mind racing through possibilities. "The signal shows clear directionality and intentional modulation. Someone, somewhere deliberately sent this message 80,000 years ago, and somehow it's just reaching us now." The 3 officers stood in contemplative silence, each wrestling with the implications. Finally, Krikstar cleared his throat nervously. There's one more thing, Commander." Veloin's tentacles resumed their anxious twitching. "I'm almost afraid to ask. The signal, it's not random noise or mathematical sequences like you'd expect from an ancient civilization trying to prove their intelligence." Krikstar paused, swallowing hard. "It's a shipping manifest, for something called a pizza delivery route." The silence that followed was so profound, you could hear a cork drop. Commander Zelak stood on the bridge of the research vessel Quantum Inquiry, his 6 arms crossed in what his crew had learned to recognize as his "this better not be a waste of my time" pose. The grizzled Zentaurian had seen enough cosmic mysteries in his 40-year career to fill a small library, but this one had his scales itching with curiosity. "Chief Science Officer Brintel, report," he growled, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd argued with black holes and won. Brintel's crystalline exoskeleton shimmered as she interfaced directly with the ship's analysis systems. "Commander, I've run every test known to modern science, and several I invented during my morning coffee break. The results are, well, they're giving me a headache in dimensions I didn't know existed." "Explain," Zelak said, settling into his command chair with the weight of someone carrying the universe's most annoying puzzle. "The transmission's quantum signature doesn't match any known technology in our databases. Not Zentaurian, not vegan, not even the ancient Prothean archives show anything remotely similar." Brintel's voice carried the frustrated tone of a scientist whose instruments were apparently lying to her. "It's like finding a starship engine that runs on pure sarcasm." Navigation Officer Kess, barely out of the academy, and still enthusiastic about everything, piped up from her station. "What about the content analysis, Chief? Any luck decoding the actual message?" Brintel's exoskeleton shifted to a slightly more purple hue, indicating deep confusion. "That's where things get really bizarre. Officer Kales, the message appears to be written in multiple languages, some of which don't exist in any of our linguistic databases." "Meaning?" Zelak prompted, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "Meaning whoever sent this signal was either using communication protocols we've never encountered or..." Brintel paused, running additional calculations. or they were so technologically advanced that their casual transmissions are beyond our current understanding. Tactical Officer Morndux looked up from his weapons console, his usual paranoia kicking into high gear. Could this be some kind of trap? A derelict probe designed to lure investigation teams? Unlikely, Brinthal replied, her tone suggesting she'd already considered and dismissed that possibility. The energy patterns are too sophisticated for a simple trap. This is genuine technological output, just not from any civilization we recognize. Zilak drummed his claws against his armrest, a habit that had driven 3 generations of bridge crews to distraction. So let me understand this correctly. We have an 80,000-year-old transmission, using unknown technology written in languages that don't exist, containing what appears to be food delivery logistics. That's actually a remarkably accurate summary, sir, Brinthal admitted. And the transmission origin point? Case checked her navigation displays. Deep Space Sector 77 Alpha. No known inhabited systems within 50 light-years. Zilak's scales rippled with determination. Then that's where we're going. Helm, set course for Sector 77 Alpha. Maximum velocity. "Hey, sir," came the chorus from his bridge crew. As the quantum inquiry leaped into hyperspace, none of them could have predicted they were about to have their understanding of galactic history turned completely upside down, and then shaken vigorously for good measure. 3 days of hyperspace travel had given Commander Zilak plenty of time to second-guess his decision to chase an 80,000-year-old pizza delivery manifest across the galaxy. But as the quantum inquiry dropped out of hyperspace at the signal's origin coordinates, his tactical instincts kicked in. "Brinthal, are you detecting any active transmissions from this location?" Zilak asked, his 6 arms already reaching for various command controls. "Negative, sir. Space is as empty as a politician's promise during election season," Brinthal replied, her sensors sweeping the area. "However, I am detecting residual quantum echoes. Something was definitely here." Officer Kess turned from her communications console, her youthful enthusiasm barely contained. "Commander, should we attempt to broadcast a response to the original signal coordinates? Maybe try to establish contact?" Zilak considered this for approximately 3 seconds. "Do it. Transmit on all known frequencies. Standard first contact protocols." "Sir, what should I say?" Kales asked, her fingers hovering over the transmission controls. "Tell them we're the Galactic Council research vessel Quantum Inquiry, investigating their ancient transmission. Keep it simple." Kess composed the message with the careful precision of someone who didn't want to accidentally start an interstellar incident. "Message sent, Commander." The response came back so fast it made their quantum communication array hiccup. "Well, hello there. This is Captain Marcus Webb aboard the Wandering Thought. Ancient transmission? Hold on, let me check my logs." The voice was pleasant, conversational, with an accent none of them recognized. "Oh, you must mean the signal from my first ship, the Pepperoni Express. Yeah, that old girl had a habit of broadcasting delivery routes to anyone who'd listen. Terrible security protocols. But hey, we were young and stupid back then." The bridge of the quantum inquiry fell silent, except for the soft humming of life support systems. 4 different species stared at their communication console, as if it had just told them the universe was actually a simulation run by cosmic teenagers. Did he just say, "First ship"? Kess whispered, her voice barely audible. Zilak's scales had shifted to their stress-indicating yellow hue. "Respond. Ask him to clarify the age of this transmission." Captain Webb, sir," Kess transmitted, her professionalism wavering slightly. "Our analysis indicates your transmission is approximately 80,000 years old. Could you confirm this information?"
80,000? Let me see. Yeah, that sounds about right.
"Give or take a few millennia. You know how time dilation can mess with your logs. That was back when I was doing my apprentice runs in the outer spiral arms. Good times. Terrible pay, but you live and learn." Tactical Officer Morndix's paranoia sensors were now operating at maximum capacity. "Commander, this has to be some kind of hoax. No biological entity can live for 80,000 years. "Captain Webb," Zilak transmitted directly, his command authority bleeding through his voice. "Are you claiming to be the original pilot of a vessel that transmitted 80,000 years ago?" "Original pilot, buddy? I'm not just the original pilot. I'm the guy who built the thing out of spare parts and optimism." Had to, really. Back then, decent starships cost more than most planets' annual budgets. Plus, the Galactic Shipwrights Union was on strike again. Brental's exoskeleton had shifted to a color that roughly translated to cognitive overload with a side of existential crisis. "Sir," she managed, "either we're talking to the galaxy's most elaborate prankster or we've just made contact with something that predates known civilization by a lot." "Tell you what," Webb's voice continued cheerfully. "I'm about 6 hours out from your position. How about I swing by and we can chat face to face? Haven't had visitors in, must be at least a century now. Fair warning though, my coffee maker's been acting up, so refreshments might be limited." Zalak looked around his bridge crew, noting their expressions ranging from fascination to terror. "This is either the greatest discovery in galactic history," he muttered, "or we're about to become the punchline of a very old joke." 6 hours later, the Quantum Inquiry sensor array detected an approaching vessel that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. The ship appeared to be roughly the size of a small moon, constructed from materials that didn't register on any known periodic table, and moving through space with the casual indifference of someone taking a leisurely stroll through their backyard. "Commander," Brental reported, her voice carrying the tone of someone whose reality had been fed through a blender, "that ship just folded space-time like it was origami. I don't even have instruments that can measure what it just did." Captain Webb's voice crackled through their communications with the warmth of someone greeting old friends. "Permission to come aboard? I'll park the wandering thought next to your ship. Don't worry about the gravitational effects. She's got excellent manners." 20 minutes later, Commander Zalak found himself in the most surreal diplomatic meeting of his career. Captain Marcus Webb looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for grizzled space veteran, if that veteran happened to be an impossibly well-preserved human who radiated the casual confidence of someone who'd seen the universe's baby pictures. "Coffee?" Webb offered, producing a steaming mug from seemingly nowhere. "I finally got the machine working again. Turns out the problem was a clogged quantum flux valve." "Who knew?" "Captain Webb," Zalak began carefully, "perhaps you could explain your timeline. Our records indicate no spacefaring species has existed for more than 12,000 years. Webb chuckled, settling into a chair that definitely hadn't been there moments before. "Oh, that's adorable. You guys are still using the Galactic Council's historical database, aren't you?" "Yeah, that thing's got more holes than Swiss cheese on discount day." Brental leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her confusion. "Are you saying humans have been spacefaring longer than our recorded history?" "Longer? Kid, we were building starships when your species was still figuring out which end of a pointed stick was the dangerous part." Webb took a sip of his coffee. "Let me put this in perspective. That pizza delivery signal you found? That was from my apprentice days. I was, maybe 200 years old at the time." The silence that followed was so complete it had its own gravitational field. 200, Kales squeaked. "Yeah, barely out of diapers by human standards. See, we discovered early on that space exploration was a young person's game, so we figured out life extension pretty quickly."
"Had to, really?"
"Takes about 50 years just to learn how to properly parallel park a starship without accidentally creating a black hole." Webb gestured casually and a holographic display materialized showing star charts that made the Galactic Council's navigation systems look like cave paintings. "Humans have been wandering around this galaxy for about, 90,000 years now. Give or take a weekend." "That's impossible," Morndix interjected, his tactical training refusing to accept such claims. "There's no evidence of advanced civilization predating current galactic records." "Evidence?" Webb laughed, the sound warm and genuinely amused. "Buddy, we are the evidence. We've been watching you folks develop for millennia. Remember that mysterious signal the Zentarians picked up 12,000 years ago that supposedly contained the secrets of faster-than-light travel?" Zalak's scales shifted colors rapidly. "The Prometheus transmission. That signal launched our entire space age. It's considered the most important archaeological discovery in galactic history." "Yeah, that was my nephew Eddie. Kid was bored during his summer vacation, decided to give you guys a little nudge. Honestly, we were getting tired of waiting for you to figure it out on your own." Brental's exoskeleton had now shifted to a color that didn't exist in her species' emotional spectrum. "You're saying humans have been guiding our development?" "Guiding's a strong word. More like gently suggesting. We've got a strict non-interference policy, but every now and then someone drops a few hints, usually when one of our younger relatives gets impatient. Webb pulled up another display, that ancient mathematical theorem that revolutionized vegan science. My great-niece's homework assignment. The mysterious ruins on Kepler 442b that contained blueprints for antimatter containment. My brother-in-law's old workshop. He's terrible at cleaning up after himself. Officer Kess looked like someone had just told her that gravity was actually optional. How many of our major historical discoveries were human artifacts? Webb scratched his chin thoughtfully. Let's see. Maybe 60%? 70%? We try to keep it subtle, but sometimes the family gets creative. My cousin Jenna once left an entire instruction manual for terraforming equipment on a primitive world, disguised as a religious text. Those folks built a pretty impressive civilization around it. Why? Silak asked, the question escaping before he could stop it. Why help us? Why stay hidden? Webb's expression grew more serious, though his eyes still held their amused twinkle. Because, Commander, the universe is a big, lonely place, and frankly, we could use the company. 3 weeks later, Orbital Nexus 7 experienced what Station Commander Veleon would later describe in her official report as a technological anxiety attack with a side of existential crisis. The wandering thought approached the station with all the fanfare of a casual grocery run. No dramatic emergence from hyperspace, no spectacular light shows. One moment the space around the station was empty, and the next a ship the size of a small city was simply there. Commander Veleon came Webb's cheerful voice over the communications array, requesting permission to dock. Fair warning, my ship's a bit bigger than your standard docking bays, so I'll just create a temporary interface. Don't worry about structural integrity. I've done this before. Through the station's viewports, the assembled alien dignitaries watched in stunned silence as the wandering thought extruded what could only be described as a custom-built docking tube, complete with atmospheric processors and gravitational stabilizers, all apparently grown from the ship's hull like some kind of metallic flower. That's not possible, whispered Chief Engineer Tokvar, his normally steady hands trembling as he watched his instruments. The material science alone, the energy requirements. We don't even have theories for what we're seeing. Station Security Chief Ralden had given up trying to classify the vessel's weapon systems after his scanners reported results that included probability cannons, temporal displacement arrays, and something labeled simply as the universe disagreeer. Webb strolled through the airlock 20 minutes later carrying what appeared to be a standard travel bag and wearing clothes that looked like they'd been purchased from any mid-tier department store. The only indication that he might be anything extraordinary was the casual way he patted the docking tube's wall and said, "Good girl, maintain standard atmospheric mix." Captain Webb, Commander Veleon began formally. Her tentacles arranged in the most respectful configuration her species could manage. Welcome to Orbital Nexus 7. We are honored by your presence. Oh hey, thanks. Nice station you've got here, Webb replied, looking around with genuine appreciation. Really brings me back. We had something similar about, 40,000 years ago. The Deep Space Cafe and Communications Hub. Great coffee, terrible Wi-Fi. As they walked through the station's corridors, Webb's casual commentary continued. Oh, nice quantum resonance chambers. We used to have those exact models. Museum pieces now, of course. But they've got that vintage charm. And are those Mark 7 artificial gravity generators? Wow. Haven't seen those in ages. We donated the blueprints for those to, let me think, the Andromedan Collective. No, wait, that was the Mark 6s. These must be from the Centauri Development Project. Chief Science Officer Brintel, walking slightly behind the group, was frantically taking notes on a device that kept overheating from her rapid data input. Dr. Captain Webb, you mentioned donating technology. How many civilizations have received human assistance? Oh geez, that's a tough one, Webb said, pausing to admire a holographic display showing the station's power distribution. Neat setup, by the way. Very efficient. But to answer your question, maybe a few hundred. We've got colonies scattered throughout this spiral arm, and the neighbor kids are always asking for help with science projects. Colonies? Veleon's tentacles went rigid. Human colonies? Sure. There's New Montana about 50 light-years from here, great fishing, terrible winters. New Tokyo's in the next sector over, Best sushi in the galaxy, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Oh, and there's the artist colony on that pretty blue planet in the Vega system. They specialize in gravitational sculpture. Lovely work, though it plays hell with local shipping routes. Security Chief Reldon's scales had shifted to their maximum alert yellow. Captain, our sensor networks show no evidence of these colonies. Webb chuckled. Well, yeah, that's the point. We're not exactly advertising our presence. Prime directive and all that. Can't have every developing civilization showing up at our doorstep asking to borrow a cup of antimatter. They passed through the station's pride and joy, its central computer core, featuring the most advanced quantum processing arrays in known space. Oh, that's adorable, Webb exclaimed, genuinely delighted. Look at this little guy. You know, my granddaughter built something just like this for her school science fair. Won third place if I remember correctly. The judges said it showed promise but lacked ambition. Chief Engineer Tokvar made a sound that could charitably be described as a whimper. The interesting thing, Webb continued conversationally, is how you've managed to achieve stable quantum entanglement without dimensional folding. Very creative approach. Inefficient as all hell, but definitely creative. As the tour continued, one thing became abundantly clear to every alien present. They weren't just meeting a representative of an advanced civilization. They were kindergartners being shown around by a university professor who was trying very hard to be polite about their finger paintings. In the station's main conference room, what had started as a formal diplomatic meeting had devolved into something resembling a cosmic therapy session. Webb sat comfortably in a chair that had somehow adjusted itself perfectly to human proportions, while the assembled alien dignitaries struggled with the growing realization that their entire understanding of galactic civilization had just been turned inside out and given a good shake. So let me get this straight, Commander Vellon said slowly. Her tentacles nodded in what her species called the contemplating universal insignificance configuration. Humans consider us children? Oh, not children. Webb corrected gently, sipping from a coffee mug that had definitely not existed moments before, more like enthusiastic teenagers. You know, full of potential, eager to prove yourselves, occasionally prone to dramatic overreactions. He gestured toward Security Chief Reldon, whose weapon systems had been on high alert for the past hour. Case in point. Chief Science Officer Breental's exoskeleton flickered through several colors before settling on deep purple. Captain Webb, what do humans consider to be cutting-edge technology? Webb's eyes lit up like someone had just asked about his favorite hobby. Oh well, we're working on some really exciting stuff. There's this new project for creating pocket universes. Not for storage, mind you, but for growing better coffee beans. Different physics, you understand. And my cousin's working on a method for teaching stars to sing in harmony, purely for entertainment value. The silence that followed was profound enough to have its own philosophical implications. Pocket universes? Chief Engineer Tokvar managed. Sure, all we've had universe creation down for ages, but the fine-tuning for proper coffee cultivation is incredibly tricky. Too much gravity and the beans get bitter, too little, and they lack body. It's really more art than science. Webb noticed their expressions and chuckled. Halt. Don't worry, we went through the same phase. I remember when we first figured out faster-than-light travel, we thought we were hot stuff, started zipping around the galaxy, exploring everything, setting up colonies on every habitable rock we could find. He paused. That lasted about 5,000 years before we realized we were being incredibly obnoxious neighbors. What changed? Asked Officer Kess, her curiosity overriding her species' natural caution. We met the Ethereal Collective. Ancient species makes us look like toddlers. They very politely explained that our enthusiasm was, let's say, endearingly destructive. Taught us the value of patience and proper galactic etiquette. Webb's expression grew fond. Lovely folks. They ascended to pure energy about 30,000 years ago, but they still send holiday cards. Breental leaned forward, her scientific mind grappling with the implications. You mentioned guiding younger species. How do you determine when to intervene? Well, there's a whole committee for that. The Galactic Development Oversight Board. Cerebral name. I know, but the acronym spells G-Day Bor, which sounds like something you'd name a pet. Anyway, they've got guidelines. Usually we step in when a species is about to accidentally blow themselves up or when they're stuck on a particularly tricky problem that's blocking their development. Like the Prometheus transmission, Commander Zylak said, pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. Exactly. Your people had been circling around the concept of space-time manipulation for centuries, but you kept getting hung up on the mathematical proofs. Eddie just gave you the missing equation. Saved you about 2,000 years of theoretical work. Commander Villon's tentacles had unknotted slightly.
Are there
Many species like us? Young civilizations that humans are? Webb pulled out what looked like a standard tablet but displayed a three-dimensional star map with thousands of blinking indicators. Oh, loads. The Regalian Consortium just discovered nuclear fusion last week. Very exciting for them. The Syrian Republic is working on their first space elevator, and there's this adorable little species in the Tau Ceti system that just figured out agriculture. We're all placing bets on whether they'll discover writing or metallurgy first. The aliens stared at the map, realizing that each blinking light represented a civilization that, from the human perspective, was essentially playing cosmic kindergarten. So when you look at our technology, Takvar asked hesitantly, you see, impressive work for your developmental stage, Webb said kindly. Really, you should be proud. Some species take twice as long to reach your level of sophistication. And there it was, the moment when every alien in the room truly understood their place in the galactic hierarchy. They weren't advanced explorers discovering the cosmos. They were the newest kids on the block, and the neighbors had been watching them learn to walk. The weight of cosmic perspective had settled over the conference room like a heavy blanket. Webb seemed to sense the shift in mood and leaned back in his impossibly comfortable chair, his expression growing more serious. I know this is a lot to process, he said gently. Trust me, we've been through this conversation with every species that reaches your level of development. The existential shock usually lasts about 6 months, followed by a brief period of either aggressive expansion or complete isolationism, then gradual acceptance. Commander Vellone managed to untangle her tentacles enough to speak. Captain Webb, why tell us any of this, if your policy is non-interference? Ah, that's the thing, Webb replied, pulling up another holographic display that showed what appeared to be a massive flowchart. Non-interference only applies to pre-contact civilizations. Once a species discovers one of our old signals and actively seeks us out, well, that changes things. You've essentially graduated to the next level. Chief Science Officer Brindle studied the flowchart, her analytical mind trying to process the implications. What does next level mean exactly? It means you're ready to know you're not alone. Not just in the other species exists sense. You already figured that out when you formed the Galactic Council. I mean in the Thera civilizations so old they remember when your sun was just a nebular thought sense. Webb gestured, and the hologram shifted to show a timeline that stretched back millions of years. Humans have been around for about 90,000 years of recorded spacefaring history. The ethereal collective we mentioned. They were already ancient when we were discovering fire. And there are others, the Void Architects, the Quantum Gardeners, the folks who built the galactic highway system you all use without realizing it. Security Chief Ralden's voice was barely above a whisper. How long have you been watching us specifically? Since you invented radio, give or take. Standard protocol, we monitor all emerging technologies that might lead to space travel. Had a betting pool going on whether you'd discover warp drive or blow yourselves up first. I'm happy to report I won 50 credits on your success. The aliens exchanged glances, each processing the revelation that their entire civilization's development had been casual entertainment for cosmic seniors. So what happens now? Officer Case asked, her youthful directness cutting through the philosophical fog. Webb smiled, and for the first time they caught a glimpse of the vast experience behind his casual demeanor. Now you get an invitation. When your species feels ready, and I mean really ready, not just politically ready, you can apply for membership in the galactic community, the real one, where the grown-ups play. He stood, somehow managing to make the gesture seem both casual and monumentally significant. Take your time. There's no rush. We've waited 90,000 years. We can wait a little longer. As Webb headed toward the airlock, he paused. Oh, and folks, welcome to the universe. It's bigger than you think.